guys, welcome to Maritime Punk. I'm here with Stephen Fairweather, newest addition to Gob. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too. So take me back. How did you become involved with the scene?
Oh, man, I remember that clear as day, to be honest with you. I talk about it a lot. I do a little kind of radio show thing, and um, my intro to music was really through movies and TV. And the first music I ever got, my mom got for me, was because of music and TV. And they were a Twist and Shout, Beatles, because of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. And I remember being blown away because, and it kind of led me into like the punk rock of it all, because when they're doing the Twist and Shout, actually Theo told me this years later, was there's like there was like a raspiness in the voice of that song. And Theo told me that he was sick that day. That's why he kind of has like this raspiness, and he's like half yelling and singing. And I remember that hitting me. I'm like, this fucking is amazing. And the next week, my mom took me out. We bought like a 7-inch of Twist and Shout. And then the other piece of music that was bought for me was the theme song to America's Greatest. Do you remember America's Greatest Hero, that like superhero 70s show? Well, like the Believe It or Not, that was the other 7-inch. So it was really through movies, and it still really is like when the right song is matched with the right images, it's such a powerful thing. It's what makes music videos can be so amazing, and the soundtrack can be so amazing. It's another another emotional way into the song, is matching up with what's happening on the screen. So that, as a little kid, and even like with Labyrinth, like learning about David Bowie, who's still one of my favorites, through like Labyrinth and that kind of shit. And then the first band I ever saw live, the very first band I saw live is kind of funny, because when we were kids, we had like punk bands. I started like I was like a singer in like a punk band, and at the age of like 13, with just like kids in the neighborhood. And the very first band I saw live was a band that came. We made a stage out of like skateboard blast ramps and old doors that my dad built, and we're going to put on a show just in our yard with like our friends from school. And our drummer at the time was friends with this like black metal band from Victoria called Blasphemy, and they're kind of like big known in like the black metal world for like being real kind of like crazy heavy, very satanic. And they had an offshoot project called Antichrist, of two of the dudes. So their band, for whatever reason, came over to like a 13, 14-year-old kid's house and played, like opened up for us. And they were like, kind of like, to us, they were like old men, you know what I mean? Because they're like these like real heavy metal looking dudes, like walking into my yard. And I remember my grandma was there. And my grandma was like, "Hi guys." I'm like, "Hey grandma, this is Antichrist." She's like, "Hello Antichrist,"
Nice to meet you.
"Nice to meet you, Antichrist." And they fucking played. And that's the first band I ever saw play, was this black metal band called Antichrist, in my yard. And which is fucking funny. I always forget about that shit, but it's a funny first band, man, for sure.
Yeah. One thing I've always loved about punk music growing up was being able to see some of my personal favorite bands in a small town where I lived, Bathurst, New Brunswick. Do you feel like there's more appreciation whenever you play these small venues in little towns, places people call shitholes, where there's really nothing that happens? But if you're a punk fan, you never know. You could have Pennywise, Gob, Chicks Dig It, these bands coming through. And I feel like the people really appreciate that, just being able to see some of the bands that they've listened to, and they had the comp CDs and records and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're totally right. You're right on the point where the smaller towns, especially in Canada is so massive, right? And there's like a handful of the major cities. But if you ever do, they call it like secondary market or whatever, if you kind of go out a few hours outside of the major cities and hit those smaller towns like you're speaking of, they'll tell you how much it means to them, because a lot of bands, they'll do like the 6 major cities in Canada, and they won't do the extra couple weeks. So the times that we've done that, they'll either tell you, or to your point, they there's a different vibe, right? Like the shows can be smaller. They usually are because of the population, but the vibe is far more frantic and they can go crazier. Um, and it's just you know, it's cheesy, but there's a different in the energy than if when you play a big town, and because they're smaller, they're closer to you too. Like so, there's a difference if you
Yeah,
play to
yeah.
like 20,000 people and the people in the front row are like 25 feet from you, you can't even like spit on them.
Hmm.
And then you play a show to like 300 people, and there's a person like right, you know, so close to you, you can like feel their fucking breath, and they're going crazy. You, it's infectious, right? Like you
Yeah.
can feed off of that more, and it drives you a bit more. So yeah, you're right, and that's the coolest thing about Canada is these little kind of towns that we get to play, and those are some of the funnest shows. Towns I've never really honestly heard of,
Hmm.
mostly because of my stupidity and lack of knowledge, but like we'll go into towns I don't even know about, and it'll be one of the funnest shows of the tour.
Yeah.
And it's the coolest people that are just like stoked that you're there and thankful, and that's the kind of coolest part, man. Is seeing that and feeling that vibe. You know, that's the kind of coolest part. Is that 1 hour of the day when you're out.
A bunch of bands that I've spoken with when they go to these towns, you start to remember who are in the crowd because it's always the same people. If you're playing the same kind of venues, and all of a sudden you'll like notice like, oh, they're not here. Like, are they okay? Because they've been to all my shows. Like, where's that guy with
Yeah,
the red baseball cap that's always at the show? Should we check his
that's so
house?
true. Yeah, call the hospitals, man. That's so true. That actually just happened to us. We were just out last fall with Billy Talent, and we some of the shows are Halloween shows, so it was hard for people in costumes. But there was this one person in the front that was kind of sticking out because they were constantly had their phone out and they're filming me like the entire show. They're just like filming
Yeah.
me, and then they're at the next show, and then they're at like the third show, and then I'm like, yo, like, hey, like, you've been at all these shows, and they were like, yeah, by themselves, and they were like young. Shout out to So is their name. They were
So
taking a train every night and following us for like the 5, 6 shows we did or whatever. They were getting on a train and by themselves
wow.
at a young age and just going from town to town and just following us. And they would be out front of the. By the time we got to should I forget? Some I think in Quebec or something, and it was super cold out, and they were waiting at the front door, and it was like 7 hours till the doors opened, and they're just waiting out there, and they're holding our vinyl, and like I have a backpack. I'm like, yo, they're like following us. When we went outside, like, hey, are you? They're like, yeah, I'm taking a train. I'm like, well, come on in and fucking get warm, have
Hmm.
something to drink, and get out of the cold. Like this is like an amazing, it's like a small little hint of like how the Grateful Dead rolled, where like people just follow them. That was and they're at the front row every
Yeah,
show,
yeah,
and it was such a sweet thing. So shout out to So if they are tuned in because
yeah,
this became kind of part of our crew. We
hmm,
wanted to see them each day, and they were there, and they're so stoked, and they just decided to follow us for a week or whatever, and that's so sweet. That's such a sweet thing, like to you know. There's few bands that I would follow. There's few bands I would wait in line. Like
hmm.
I'm at the age or
Convenience
patience
is
level.
king.
Yeah, if it's like a 4 hour lineup, like I don't even know who the fuck
Yeah, you're like, I'm
I'm
good.
gonna wait. Yeah, like even like Bowie, like I'm gonna wait that long. I don't know, man.
Mm,
So yeah, yeah, for sure, man.
yeah.
It's
So the
awesome.
So there's a ton of material that recently got released on vinyl. Super exciting for fans, for you as well. Tell me a bit about that experience, being able to see those first copies being mailed out and the reception from people that were patiently waiting for decades for some of these.
I know. 30 years later, that's how you build a demand. Is just wait 30
Yeah.
years. Yeah, I was saying that was like the main question that the band would get asked because it just never got really released. I think Apartment 13 was out on vinyl, but all of the old ones just never had vinyl releases. And that was like the number one question that we would get DM'd and asked. And then we finally did it, man. It took a while. And shouts out to Tom and Theo for locking that down and putting in that work. And we linked up with Dine Alone outside of Toronto, who really kind of put in their work too, and there's such a back order of vinyl too that you probably know about. A lot of bands are trying to get stuff pressed. There's not a lot of places that press vinyl, and so it took a minute. But to have that available was so rad, and to have it available just at the merch booth is cool. It's a cool thing to kind of have,
Mhm.
and yeah, we were so stoked, and to see that there was a demand for it is so cool. And it's to see people kind of debate what one they want to get, and people just got like that. There's like package deals where you can get like all of them and the
Yeah.
different kind of colored vinyls. It's so cool to nerd out of the different colors and splatters and stuff. And it was a long time coming, like we're saying, like 30 years later. And yeah, it's so cool that that's finally out there for the people that have been asking for it.
Yeah. I mean, as a musician too, you have to really appreciate the fact that people are wanting physical media again. There was a time when the whole industry was like, "Uh oh, what's going to happen here?"
I know. It's all, if you stick around, if you're lucky enough to stick around on this earth, you notice how everything's just reciprocal. It just goes in cycles. Cassettes are coming back. I wonder if DVDs are going to be making it. It's just everything's reciprocal, man, and it's rad. I mean, even the musical taste, like just kind of see the music that we make, to see like younger people at shows, to see people, um, such a vast show demographic to see sometimes when you look out, because you'll see people that grew up with the band. And then if they're all ages shows, you'll see people bring their kids to the show, which is cool. And then you'll see
Mhm.
people in like their early 20s, maybe, um, that were maybe not even alive when Gob started first popping off with the first album or two, and to see them discover it. And to them, it's like oldies music, because it's like me listening to shit from the fucking 60s,
Yeah.
like, which is a rad thing to see that they're discovering it. And I think when you feel like you discover something, because like with much music and stuff like that, MTV and stuff, you were shown a lot growing up watching that stuff. But I think when people have a feeling that they've discovered you, um, it makes it a little more special to them. That you feel like you're kind of um, a bit more special to them. I think because maybe they just discovered you because they went through a rabbit hole of some early kind of punk rock from the '90s.
Yeah. It's kind of weird how that has changed, but it's also the same in a certain sense too of being able to discover music because I grew up in a 90s kind of teenager, so my thing was compilation albums on CDs. We would pick up a compilation album, the Epitaph, Punkorama, Fat Records comps, and then all of a sudden you have like 13 bands you want to start buying their albums, so you're saving up your allowance and buying that
Yeah.
CD. But nowadays you click a song on Spotify and it's like, you may like this band, you may like this band.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because it's kind of hit or miss more, I think, with the Spotify algorithm, right? Um, but yeah, those compilations were fucking dope as fuck, man. Like, yeah, I miss those. I wonder if those did. Yeah, those should be making a comeback, because that was such a cool thing. Because you kind of trusted whatever labels you were on, like Epitaph, Revelation Records, whatever scene you're into, even like the goth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you would kind of trust them to curate. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
was kind of like a pass. Like, well, if they're on that label, you'll give them a shot. You'll give them at least a verse and a chorus before you hit
exactly.
skip. And yeah, I missed that shit. Those were the fucking rad days, man. I forgot about that shit.
Getting all nostalgic here.
Yeah.
So when you're not on the road or in the recording studio, what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Um, a few things, man. I started a radio station 7 years ago called
Okay.
Stranger Radio. And a bunch of rad shows are on there. Some cool punk rock shows. Shout out to the Jimmy Hartburn Experience and Punk is Dad. All different kinds of music. My show on there is called the Church of Steventology, and it's a weekly radio show on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern. And I just talk some shit, try to be funny, play a whole different kinds of music. And I love doing it, man. We built a really cool, rad, shout out to the team, Sad Bastard and the Stranger Family, a cool little community on there that tunes in each week. So I do that. I love photography a lot. I live in America, and I live in a city that is really photographical. What's the word?
Beautiful.
Com- it's very beautiful.
Photo
It's cinematic.
photogenic. I don't
Jesus
know.
Christ. And that leads me into my next thing. I'm also a writer. You can tell I'm a wordsmith.
Yeah.
Actually, it's so funny. So I love doing photos. That's mostly what I use my Instagram for, uh, which is at Stephen Fairweather. It's mostly just my photography. But another thing that I'm stoked on, and it's so funny, I got it like 5 minutes before we went live.
Really.
I've been writing a comic book for a long time. And it's a slow process because I write it and then the artist, it takes a long time for the art to be done. And book three, I just got the final proof of book three like fucking 5 minutes before we
Wow.
went live.
Late
It has
breaking
a not
news.
it has a not for resale thing on it, but I just got it.
Okay.
That's it there. That's book three. It's called
That's awesome.
Chaya and the Red Hand, and it's a pretty violent, it's a pretty adult, violent revenge story of a young girl in India that's an abuse survivor, and she just started turning the fucking tables and starts going on a killing spree. Meets some people along the way that help her and hinder her, and I'll be dropping the trailer. I know this comes out not for a while, but I'm going to be dropping the after we're done this
Yeah.
interview. I'm actually going to I make these like little trailers for them, like motion graphic trailers,
Okay.
and I'll be dropping the trailer today. So that comes out too. So I'm stoked on that. That and you can, if anyone's interested of the comic book or the radio show, if you go to stephenfairweather.com, the comic book's available on there. You can just like get it through Amazon on your Kindle or paperback, and all the radio bullshit stuff's on there, and my photography and yeah. And then besides that, I'm a homebody, man. I live in a real busy city, but I have a real quiet, small life in it, and I'm kind of a homebody, and I just chill, do a lot of
Hmm.
karaoke,
Yeah.
and and uh, chill, man. A lot of Fortnite with my friends' kids,
Hmm.
and just chilling, man, and just to chilling.
So, are there any plans to maybe turn this into a comic book music series like Coheed and Cambria,
Oh
Cambria
man,
did?
that would be interesting. It'd be interesting because I mean, I would feel kind of weird because I would think it'd have to be like themed, like have like an India vibe to it, and I'm like not a dude that can play any of that music or feel right playing it, but it would be kind of cool. It would be cool because I do um, another thing. I have a little solo project. I write and record kind of like sad bastard folk music and shit. And yeah, I never even thought about writing a song about her. I'm so kind of enveloped in just writing her. Maybe when it's done, because this is book three. I think it's going to be maybe 7 books. I'm not really sure. And maybe when it's all done and you can get it all as one, omnibus. Maybe I can do something that'd be cool. Fuck, that'd be super cool. Now I'm starting tripping out and thinking about that.
I
I
know.
gotta.
I opened up Pandora's box here.
um,
To be determined.
yeah, that'd be dope, man. If I do, you'll have me back on and we'll talk about
Yeah,
that
yeah.
shit.
100%. So,
Yeah,
with Apartment 13 being last released back in 2014, quite a while ago, are there plans
yeah.
to release any new material? Is there anything kind of on the back burner, or are we just kind of waiting till Tom gets back from the Sum tour and then kind of regroup there?
That was always a thing because we always had to. Tommy being in some, they're such a busy band, very popular band, so we did have to always kind of work around them. But there are always things. Tommy Thacker, that sings with us and plays guitar in some, he's always writing. Like the dude cannot not write songs, so he always has so many songs and he's always writing. And it is just kind of finding time around some schedule, but just Tom's schedule too. He's has a young boy, and a life here in New York City too, and just kind of finding the time to kind of go and do it. And um, so it is a bit of a puzzle, and especially them kind of building up steam too, like they're kind of gaining momentum, and then them announcing that they're breaking up. But before they do, releasing a double album and going on like a world tour. Um, they've gotten really so much even more busy in the past little bit.
Yeah,
And then just the momentum, like did you see they hit number one on the Billboard like a
hmm
few days ago too? Like
I know
they
it's
bumped out
wild.
bumped off Blink 182. It's amazing. Like they're number one on the Billboard charts, and so when that kind of settles and that final tour happens, there will be stuff, and there might even be something before that. So we'll have to wait and see. But there could be some cool stuff in the works even before that too. We got asked to join Sum 41 on their full Canadian tour. So it's like Victoria to Toronto,
Nice.
January 2025, and I think it's 13 cities. It'll be us, Pup, and Sum 41, and that would be awesome, man. Just to play their final kind of tour in Canada and to have Tommy be a part of it and Gob, which is rad, and kind of full circle it, and then ending in Toronto. I think they have 2 shows at the Scotiabank Theatre in Toronto. Hopefully the pre-sales went well.
Yeah.
If not, we'll put the pre-sale code right here. Here's the pre-sale code. Hit this link. Hit that link right there.
So what kind of
so that'll be rad, man.
Really looking forward to see what's on the horizon, and hopefully we will see Gob on the East Coast at some point, because all towns here that really did support and love Gob. So it'd be nice to be able to see you live again.
Right on, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, keep an eye out at Gob Band on the Instagrams, and we'll hopefully have some amazing stuff announced soon, and maybe some other amazing stuff announced later in the year. So, and thank you for having me, man. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Right on. It's been fun. Thanks so much.